Hi, Jeff Marion here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you've been injured in a car crash or in a fall, you're going to end up dealing with the insurance company from the party that injured you. There are certain questions they don't want you to ask. They want to settle your claim as quickly and as cheaply as possible. I'll make sure that when you deal with the insurance company that you're informed. This channel is dedicated to helping people who are injured in crashes, in falls, or by unsafe products. Click on the logo in the corner to subscribe to this channel so that you can get more information and regular updates. I've been fighting for people who've been the victims of carelessness by others for the last 25 years. I'm here not only to make sure that you're informed, but to make sure that you stay healthy and you stay safe. Okay, so let's do the top 10 questions insurance carriers don't want you to ask. How much blame are you assigning to me? The one thing they may not want to tell you is how much or what percentage of fault they are rating your end of the case at. In New York State, we have something called comparative fault. That is that if you are partially at fault for the crash or for the fall or whatever, you can still recover, but you're going to be reduced by that percentage that was the cause of your own carelessness. For example, if you have a $10,000 settlement and you are 40% at fault, then your recovery is going to be reduced by 40%, so you will end up at $6,000. It's an important question to know and an important question to ask to see where their position is and to give you an idea of what their view of the events are. Now check this with the police report. Check this if you have video of the incident, anything along those lines. Make sure that you're prepared that if they argue to you that you are somehow at fault. The next question insurance companies don't want you to ask is, how much is your insured at fault? This goes back to what we just talked about in terms of comparative fault. Also, they don't want to tell you the bad facts in their case. They don't want to tell you what it is that their own insured told them that might actually hurt the claim. But it's a question you need to ask and find out and get an idea of where they're at. Following up on that question, what are the bad facts on your end or from your insured's perspective? They obviously don't want to admit to you that their insured is completely liable unless they absolutely have their backs to the wall. So asking about about the bad facts is very important and a question that you should, in your initial dealings with the insurance carrier, ask that question. The next question insurance companies don't want you to ask is, do you increase your offer after a lawsuit? Again, this goes back to the fact that they want to settle this claim as quickly as possible. And in many cases, they actually do increase their offers after a lawsuit has been filed. Once a lawyer gets involved, the company will turn the case over to their own lawyer who bills by the hour, and the case will start to get more expensive for them. So a lot of times they have offered a client of mine a nominal or small offer, but once the case is put into lawsuit and we've gone back and forth on litigation, we've taken statements called depositions from each of the parties, we've exchanged paper discovery, we've exchanged all the evidence, the insurance carrier sometimes comes back with an offer that was significantly higher than they offered you on the phone the first time that you called them. The next question is, how often has your supervisor come back with a higher offer than the one you're presenting me with? That's the last thing that these carriers want you to do, is start asking to talk to the supervisor. Again, this goes back to they want to handle the claim as quickly and as cheaply as possible. They'll tell you that the supervisor isn't going to be any different. You can be firm at this stage. Ask to speak to the supervisor, and you may end up with a better offer. The next question is, how many times has a jury awarded a victim more than you offered them? Now you can actually find this information out. There are jury verdict reporters out there. You can look online. You aren't going to necessarily get the best view, but again, they will probably not tell you the answer to that, or they'll say we don't necessarily increase our offer to you just because you put a case into suit, which is not necessarily the truth. The offers can continue to climb even as you get into jury selection at a trial, or even during a trial if the evidence goes in poorly. And there are loads of cases, not only that I've handled, but virtually every personal injury attorney I know, that they have gotten a no-pay offer or a few $1,000s or $10,000 and then gotten hundreds of thousands of dollars or more from a jury. Along those lines is asking the insurance adjuster something else they don't want you to ask. How much have you paid in other cases for my exact same injury? This goes back to what you might be able to find out online. You might be able to find out, you could, at this point, if you're discussing the case with an attorney, attorneys are oftentimes not going to try to tell you, well, I had somebody with a broken leg like yours get X, but they'll also hedge with you. They're going to tell you, and this is true, well, there's different facts in that case than yours, and not every case is the same. So just because I get a result over here doesn't mean that I'm going to get the same result in your case. But it is a question that they don't want you to ask. They're probably not going to have a good answer for. Another question they don't want you to ask is, what is the settlement reserve? In any given case, the insurance carrier has a reserve on your case. Is the maximum that they intend to pay. Now, they're not necessarily going to be upfront with you. They also are going to tell you that that's privileged information. Even if they tell you the reserve amount is probably lower than what it is. So if they have X number of dollars, assume that they have more than that. Okay, we're going to get into some very important, these are the top two questions, and they're both very important. If you walk away from this video and you remember one or two things, if you ask one of these two questions, these are the ones that you should ask. If these are the only two that you remember, these are the most important ones. And the first one is, what is your settlement authority? Understand that at an insurance company, there are different levels of adjusters. If there are adjusters that are on the front line, and they may only have a few $1,000s in your case, and they may not be able to get you any more on that. Then there's other adjusters, there's supervisors who may have a little more authority. If the case is put into suit, there's often a litigation adjuster who is going to have more authority than that, and the reserve, again, may climb because the case is put into suit. But try to get that authority. That can give you a clear picture as to whether your claim is going to be resolved fairly or not. Now, the number one question insurance carriers don't want you to ask, and you should ask, what are your policy limits? Know what those bodily injury policy limits are. I'm sure you're familiar with your own insurance policy where you have certain limits as to how much the carrier is going to pay if there is an injury in a crash that you cause. That goes for somebody who causes a crash that injures you. So the minimum in New York State is $25,000 per person, $50,000 per occurrence. And it can go up from there substantially. It's common to have $100,000 per person, $300,000 per occurrence. You can go as high as into the millions. And many large businesses, companies that own fleets of trucks or things of that nature, will often have higher policy limits. But know those policy limits. Now, your injury may not be severe enough that you qualify for one of those limits, but it's an important thing to know. If you've been injured in a crash, in a fall, or by an unsafe product, email me at the address below. Or you can contact me through my Facebook page, www.facebook.com/JeffMarionLaw. Or you can message me through my website, www.jeffmarionlaw.com, where I also have other resources about personal injury law, including free PDFs. Also, if you found this video helpful, click on the like button below, click on the logo in the corner to subscribe. Share this video with people in your social media network. So until next week, when we have a new video out, we'll see you then.